remember you were Frisco, that is for sure. So we're off and running.
Yes.
And Saturday was kind of, what, interesting?
Wild, crazy. Someone has some explaining to do, but at the end of the day, Shedeur Sanders is an NFL player. The Browns took him with the 144th overall pick. In between number 1 and 144, there was that unprecedented slide, the prank phone call, the speculation, but finally a landing spot, and for a franchise that has been a revolving door for quarterbacks.
Obviously, Shedeur has kind of grown up in the spotlight, but our expectation is for him to come in here and work and compete. Nothing's been promised. Nothing will be given. So I may hesitate to characterize it as a blockbuster. That's not necessarily how we thought of the transaction, but we are excited to work with him.
I'm extremely grateful for the opportunity. I don't ever focus on the negative or even think about the negative because the positive happens so fast, and it's a change of emotions. For me, it was just playing quarterback. That's what it's about.
With that QB room there in Cleveland, going to need some more seats. They got 5 dudes in there. Clearly not all 5 of them will make the opening day roster. 4 of those guys you see were not on the roster in Cleveland last season. Of course, that includes the 2 quarterbacks they just chose in Gabriel and Sanders. All right, for some more perspective on what actually happened here with Shedeur Sanders, we bring in Jordan Reed to SportsCenter. And look, I don't want to speak for the Browns, but their draft selections would indicate that at the quarterback position, they rated Dillon Gabriel ahead of Shedeur Sanders. Based on what you've seen from this young man, the evaluations, the people you've talked to, how does that make sense?
Well, Michael, quite frankly, it doesn't to me, just because Shedeur Sanders was my number 19 overall ranked player. Dillon Gabriel, I had a 5th-round grade on. I didn't even think it was close as far as the evaluation between the two. And I know Dillon Gabriel has been more successful than Shedeur Sanders from a statistical standpoint. But if we're just talking about the physical traits and what Shedeur Sanders can be on the next level, I don't even think it's even close between the two. We're talking about a quarterback that was the highest rated passer, and completion percentage was 74% a season ago. Supremely accurate. He's very, very good from the pocket as far as playing within structure, throwing the ball down the field. He's really good in the short to intermediate areas as well. I definitely think Shedeur Sanders can still be a starter on the next level, even though he was a 5th-round pick.
Again, that's no disrespect to Dillon Gabriel. Congratulations to that young man for going where he did. But the common sentiment was that Shedeur Sanders was ranked well above Dillon Gabriel, but the draft didn't turn out that way. But regardless of how he got there, Jordan, now Shedeur Sanders is in Cleveland. In terms of the personnel they have there in the quarterback room we just showed you, how do you see him fitting in with the Browns?
Well, it definitely is very crowded. He's entering into a very crowded quarterback room. They already have Joe Flacco and Kenny Pickett at the top of the depth chart. And we just mentioned Dillon Gabriel, and Deshaun Watson is still on the roster technically as well. But Shedeur Sanders, he enters into a situation where I think he has a chance to play at some point. But the biggest thing for him is that he has to understand that he is a day 3 selection, and he can't come into Berea thinking that he was a day 1 selection. He has to have a day 3 mindset and understand that that's his role right now behind Joe Flacco as well as Kenny Pickett. Just take notes from those guys, especially just cling on to Joe Flacco, who was once again in a situation with Lamar Jackson back in Baltimore. We saw what Lamar has turned out to be. Not saying Shedeur is going to end up being like Lamar Jackson, but just talking about the role initially that he needs to play.
By the way, though, Shedeur not the only Sanders making it to an NFL roster. His brother Shiloh, undrafted safety out of Colorado, he signed a free agent contract with Tampa Bay on Saturday. Jordan Reed.
You go. Who we kidding? Both matter. Shedeur's wait comes to a close on day 3 as the prime prospect is heading to Cleveland. Here he is shortly after being picked.
Thank you for the fans. Thank you for everybody. Thank you for the Browns organization for giving me a chance. That's all I need. Our belief in God, that's all we care about. We know these decisions, things happen. Sometimes it's adversity. We got to change it, though. We got to do different.
We got to do different. We can't control the uncontrollable.
You can't control that. So you just got to remain positive, stay happy at all times, and know God got you. I knew the whole time God had me. So I wasn't really panicking because I understood it's about perfect timing.
So there he is, and there you have it. Joe Musso pleased to be alongside Mike Renner and Ryan Wilson as we wrap up the NFL draft. We're going to focus on Shedeur. We're going to do a little day 3 and then give out some superlatives here in the draft in total. But we got to start with the story of this draft, and that is the slide doesn't even do it justice of Shedeur Sanders. All the way down to day 3. He ends up going to Cleveland, the team that we had linked him to there with the 2nd overall pick. It didn't go the way he wanted, but seems to be taking it in stride. What do you make of the experience in totality for Sanders?
It was wild. I mean, it was truly a one-of-one draft with how it was discussed all the way from pre-draft through middle of day 3. It ate up a lot of airwaves, and it's still eating up a lot of airwaves. But I do think that the man is talented. There is no denying that if things would have gone differently, if an interview here or there would have broken his way, he could have been a first-rounder. I mean, there were people with legit first-round grades on this guy with what he put on tape last year. So for the Cleveland Browns, though, I cannot fathom how weird this is going to all get. You have one of the, Dillon Gabriel, who you drafted in the 3rd round, Shedeur in the 5th round. I can't remember a team ever doing that. Right. Maybe you get a 1st and a 4th, but you never get a 3rd and a 5th. And then you already have 2 guys there. Shoot, 3 guys there. They're probably going to tell Deshaun to go home. But Kenny Pickett and Joe Flacco on the roster. I don't know how it's going to shake out, but I do not envy Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah, it is wild, to borrow a phrase that Mike mentioned. And Mike and I were talking about this earlier, and I think Mike made up a good point. If Shedeur had approached the pre-draft process like Dillon Gabriel did, he's probably a top 5 pick, and there's no even conversation about it. Because, to Mike's point, I had him as number 25 on my big board, my QB2. So I thought maybe into 1st round. Worst case, he goes to the top of the 2nd. The Browns in it with pick 33 and 36. And then, of course, he ends up going in the 5th round. I cannot remember a situation like this where it wasn't a serious off-field incident. It was more just he wasn't popular in terms of the pre-draft process with how he approached it. And I would imagine this will be instructive for players who come after him. Yeah. And fair or not, this is where we are. But I think now he has his opportunity, and I get the sense that he's probably learned something from this lesson. Now you have to go out and play football. It doesn't matter what you learned or what you didn't learn. And I would imagine Dillon Gabriel, who we talked to at the Combine, he was incredibly motivated then. This will make him even more so.
Well, let's game this out for a second because we just saw the graphic with that quarterback room. You are looking at the ultimate twilight of a career in Flacco. You're looking at a new guy in the building, a Super Bowl champion, I will add, Kenny Pickett, a guy that isn't assumed to be in the building, and Deshaun Watson, Dillon Gabriel, who we could say was perhaps overdrafted, and then Shedeur Sanders, who was supposed to be 1-1 2 months ago, and now we're talking about him on day 3. You're managing personalities, you're managing opportunities, you're managing repetitions. Where does Shedeur's opportunity come when you're going to start hearing that clamoring if Flacco's not playing the football you want to see, Ryan?
I think he has to keep his head down and do his job. And, we live in an age, I'm an old-timer here, where everything is on social media, and we know that Shedeur has people following him around and documenting everything he does, and that's all well and good, but I think at the end of the day, in terms of what this means for him now, it has to be all about football. Again, to bring it back to Dillon Gabriel, when we talk to him, he drives a minivan. He's taking his teammates to practice, and that's the vibe you get from him. It's not the hashtag legendary or however you want to phrase it.
Is there a middle ground between minivan and Twitch stream? Can we?
Yeah, I think Kenny Pickett is the middle ground. So levitate just towards going to work, doing your job, going home, and focusing on what you can control.
That's the thing, is he's going to now a situation with Dillon Gabriel, who, by all accounts, has done everything right this pre-draft process that everyone loves. That was, called by a lot of execs the best interview they had in this pre-draft process. So if it's going south, if he's, still doing what he did in this pre-draft process going into the season, it's going to be very stark, the difference in that locker room for Kevin Stefanski.
Football is the great crucible of competition, and there will be competition in that quarterback room. We'll see how it all plays out for Shedeur and everybody else. Shedeur, one of 9 quarterbacks drafted here on day 3. Mike, give me your favorite selection.
Thế rồi, thì tranh thủ. Mình xinh xanh đây. Nước đây sau đến lúc là nước lá dứa tí nữa em đem về em ngâm sôi. Em của anh. Có gì về này? Nhớ vòng rồi. Bây giờ mình sẽ hướng dẫn các bạn làm vòng nhé. Cắm chị. Bình tí à? Có một tuần đi có một tuần không rưỡi tao mấy bằng mấy từ như nào đi đâu hết máy rồi hết máy rồi Ui, bây giờ phải trả chân quay cho ấy. Đấy, nghe rồi nha. Không nên bảo là kéo em. Anh kia chê em suốt. Anh kia chê suốt. Con này á, đi bán chè thì ế.
Ôi ôi, cô Lý nổ câu. Hộp sữa đánh 10.000.
Chưa chưa.
Không trả làm sao?
Thành ơi, bố ta cất cái nồi, hôm qua ta múc 3 nồi, bố bảo ăn vớ ăn vãn ăn quen mất nét.
Ngồi đây, nói là gì?
Cái nồi điện lẩu mini á.
Đây, có điện nồi lẩu mini đây. Nấu một phát cháy được nổi. Cháy cái dây mà không biết làm sao bị cháy dây mà không bị cháy khoe ngoài cái dây được.